I was recently reminded about a feature in JCB that I said I was going to elaborate on in an advanced course, a course which I haven't yet been able to make because of time constraints in my own schedule. But I will nonetheless give a tutorial in explaining how this concept works so that we can start collaborating and seeing how we might want to expand on this. Okay, so first, just to bring everybody on to speed, let me sort of play that snippet I made about a year ago.
Now this also means if there is a form field you want to extend that doesn't exist already, in our advanced seminar we'll show you how to add your own form fields here. There's basically two places you'll need to change, which I could tell you now. One of them would be to add the field and update it accordingly, and the other one would be to add it in a few places in the code and also in a JSON file called settings there. So those are some of the things we will deal with in advanced adaptation of Component Builder. We will still set up that series very soon. It's not finished yet though.
So here is how it works. It's not that obvious. Some of the concepts I'll need to go slowly and make sure that you all follow. But this is one of the things that you need to keep in mind, is that if we expand on any of these field types, we're actually expanding the custom field. Now let me show you what that means in JCB. We got an area in JCB called field types. Now these field types are editable and extendable, and you can create new ones. But you can only create field types here that either do not exist, well, they're definitely those that don't exist. If you create a field type with the same name, you're going to mess things up. So here it's important that you only create field types that do not already exist, and that they are the field types that are available by default in Joomla itself. So it must be this list of field types. Now there might be more, we're not listed here, but it must be native to Joomla. That is what this field type area is for. But there is in this list one field type called custom, which is like the chameleon of field types. It is the field type that can be any field type. And it's this field type that we are able to extend its options. Now currently, if we go to create one of those, you'll see that it is already extending 3 field types. So at the moment, it's extending list, radio, and checkboxes. You see that with the extends attribute. And whichever you want, you just add that value here. And it's upon this list that we can expand. Now, let me show you in the compiler how this works. So in the compiler, we go to a file called C fields. The compiler obviously located in the, in the helper compiler. Here's the files. So we opened this one, C fields. Now C fields has a method called setCustomFieldTypeFile. This is the method that builds the file as well as sets its content. And so most of what you need to know happens right here. You could follow some methods like this build dynamic. In NetBeans, if you click on control and hold over the method, it tells you in what folder and file that method is first declared, and then also gives you some parameters if it has them mapped out. So we can then see that this this method is in the structure. If we search for it here, let's see. We see that it is basically starting with a Joomla version data. Now the Joomla version data is being set by another method, so we can search for that. Going up, let's just put a space. We say, yeah, it's being set by set Joomla version data. It's the method, and that method starts by calling this settings JSON file. So that's where it gets the data which we need to build the file. Now that's already done. Everything about that is in place. But where the limitation is that if we go to this file is found in the, like I showed in the tutorial, component builder, compiler, Joomla 3, you scroll down and you double click on the settings JSON. That's where this file is. Now, if we want to expand on one of those field types, let's say we want to create a different type of list field, we could copy this snippet and just paste it in again, and then change the name of the file, me, and let's also then add that me here, and also add it here. So basically this will become the new name of the file if we're going to use it in the JCB interface. And that means, let me just save this. If I copy this and I go to JCB, then I'll put that in there like that. Now it will be pulling that data. It will use that new file, but that new file doesn't exist. So to make sure it's there, we go up and we take this file, we copy it and paste it in. Now we just rename it to me like that, and now we have the file. This is how it looks. The thing to note here at the moment is that it's still really the same as the original. So this you'll only do if you want to break away from our original implementation. The original implementation updates this value, it updates this value, it adds this information, and it adds this information. So that would be the placeholders which can still be targeted. Except this one, if you want to override the get input value, get input method, then this you need to remove this placeholder, and you need to add your script in here. I'm looking at the option to expand JCB's custom field so that that specific area becomes a little bit more dynamic. So at the moment it isn't like that, but we were talking about that and seeing if we could do that. But you could see whether we have done that eventually by just coming to this method in the C fields file and then scrolling down. If you come to the bottom of the method, you'll see that you start running up to these placeholders which are being placed in the file content dynamic array. And there you will notice we've got this get options PHP, JForm get options PHP, and that maps to this one, right? JForm get options PHP. So literally this information here is being built down here, and this is the value we're adding. Now how did we get this PHP code value? If we go up a little in the file, we'll see that there is actually a value here. This is just me checking out stuff. We check if there's a PHP value, and then we load those values into here. Now where does this value come from? Well, it is in the custom field. It is this area here. So that means you have a placeholder which at the moment says to target the get options area, but you don't need to target the get options area, right? I mean, it's only because that placeholder is inside the get options area. You could do this. Sorry, that was the wrong button. You could do that. Just remove all of it and save. And now in this area in Joomla, you can now put, let me show you. You can put the whole public function get options method with your own code right there, no problems. And you can now write your own get input method right here, and it will dynamically be added to this placeholder here. So this placeholder can currently be used anywhere you like, and in your new field type. But you could leave it the way it was and just code in your whatever changes you want to make by removing the add button. You could do the get input. So here's the get input method now. So you can add that, and you can change that to whatever you like. This is the default that we usually build for the button, but you can do anything here now, and then that is what this field would be. That's why it will be different, because you're doing your own implementation of the get input. You can go to this JForm field list method, right? You can actually go look at its methods. It is under your libraries. Joomla at the moment, it's under form and fields, and you'd scroll down to list. There it is, JForm list. And you can look at how it is doing its implementation, and you can add option, you can change that, you can extend this, and you can even go back and again check the JForm field and add extend that one's options. The reality is you could take any of these fields and copy it. So let's say we want to expand on the note one. We can say copy. We can take it back up here. And paste it in here. Now we need to rename it so we can always get to it easily. And the way I've done that is I've said, okay, it should be JForm field, and this would be note. Simple. JForm note. Okay, so now we have it here, JForm field note, and we can now just update some of the areas in it to ensure that it becomes dynamic with the same let's see, so we'll use this value. Well, first of all, we'll have to grab everything from there to there, right? And copy that, and we'll have to do this. No, not like there. Yeah. And I like to change that a bit, make it look like that. Okay, the rest we could leave. Then again, this we need to change. And so the best to make sure it will work is we'll just grab that. Well, let's just grab this whole little thing here like that. And so now we are going to extend the form field, but like a note. So we are also going to change that value because it needs to be dynamic. It needs to use the new field type that you're going to create in the custom field. So that's where you have to put that. Now this is the area you want to now adapt. The input is going to stay like that. So since this is the area you want to adapt, this is the place you want to also have dynamic, I would say take this value. I know in the beginning, while JCB is still evolving, This might not work forever, but for the time being, this will work quite well. You're just basically changing where this placeholder gets placed. We wanted to make sure that we have a different get input value structure. We could still do that. And now with this one, we have a different way that it's going to build the label. And we can now call it note. So let's do this. We go to our settings.json, we copy again that previous one, and we paste it in. And now this we call note. And so we do this and that one. Note the capitalization must match between these, but not here, because this one, remember, this value is built, let me save this, is built here. Wait, no, wrong. Let's go up. It's built over here. So the first part is field, and then the second part is what comes from JCB in the extends attribute. So that's why I just keep it lowercase, make it simple. So in our JSON setting, it's going to be basically this value. So in JCB, to target this new field type, we'll basically have to add that extend note. Now here you need to realize that you're now no longer targeting the get options. Although it says that, we are moving the get options value with the note. We are moving it to the get label. So you now need to write code there that's going to be used in the get label. Now, if you forgot how that should look like, then again scroll down to where you took the file from originally. So we open note, and here you can at least see how they started. Well, they started with element, and if it doesn't exist, return empty, and so you can decide to change this style, how it behaves, the get label, and it's your own type of note. So this extending option, I realize get option should actually be changed so that it could be more movable. That is possibly what we'll do. And if I do that, I wouldn't do it like 3-4 times. I'll do it once and have everyone's things break and everybody change over, and then it's done. Sorry about that, but I can't see another way. At the moment it's called get options, but it is a dynamic value which really links to this, whatever you put in this box. So this is what ends up in that placeholder. And so we could change this to PHP for the placeholder called, and then we'll give the placeholder a name. Get options is too specific. We could change that. And in fact, I think I will put the new, if I change it, I'll put the placeholder name right here, so that in the file you could easily just rename this to the corresponding. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do. Anyway, this is still really a movable concept. We now literally extended note, and we created our own new input for our list, which you could do whatever you like here, but you only at the moment have one placeholder for your dynamic values. So there has been a request to have at least two placeholders, two dynamic coding placeholders. So we will end up having one for here and one for somewhere else. So I'm still working on basically adding another one of these text areas to the custom field area. So that is what we are looking at. And at the end of the day, it's really just to give you freedom to expand on the custom field. It's the custom field we're talking about. It's not another field type. It is the field type called custom field. And yes, and many of the values now, like button and some of these values become obsolete somehow because, for example, the button value in the compiler, if we go back to that compiler method, we'll see that if we go down here, it says add button. That's the placeholder. Remember, in the original file we had, let's go up here again. Our original list file had a placeholder called add button. It is that placeholder which we're looking at here, add button. So this is dynamic hashes value, and we have a method called set add button to list field. So if that method is right here, so we don't need to search for it, it's easy to find, and it's basically checking should we add, is add button true, and if it is, it builds that code for the get input, and it writes a whole lot of code here. So if you are going to remove the add button placeholder, it will no longer update it, and you now need to set your own get input method then. So that is what the add button placeholder does. It adds this value in if it's required. So now going back to our new fields, here you will add your custom code, and you will now know that this field type is targeted with list me. So again, in JCB, just for good measure, this will be list me. Now I think I should run one or two just to make sure that everything works, because to be honest, I haven't actually done any of this before. I mean, expanding it just that quickly. Just quickly checking, okay, add node is in place, that one is in place, all has been saved. So I'm gonna just demonstrate adding, extending a note. So I'm gonna say noted, and the name I'm gonna call it noting. Nothing. Okay, nothing. Great stuff. And I'm gonna remove most of this because it's irrelevant. That I'm gonna change to node. And obviously no button available, no table, no component, no view. Just, well, we could just leave the prime. That makes sense. And I just copied the default node code, and maybe we can just add something here. It says if close is true. Now we don't have a value here for close, so that means we now need to go to custom and just expand it to have the close element, or we could just say that it's going to be, yeah, we're just going to leave that out. And then the heading, just so we can see we made it, and then give it a name. It doesn't know that this is a non-database value, but okay. So now we have a new field which expands note. Now let's add it to something to see it in action. Just go to demo component and admin view. Let's go to the admin view. Wrong place. Cancel. We should click here. No, that was the right place. And fields, edit, okay. Just add a field here. Expanding note, and we make that also full width, and we make it 2, and that should do. Save and close. Close. Compile. Demo. Okay, I have an error here, and it's something about the class not being there. So let me just check that out. Go to the code. Now we go to demo. We see that it created the field noted, and we have here a problem. Let's see. That's one of the drawbacks of basically the current implementation we have here. In our, if we go back to our component admin view, basically back to that field, we have values here which are double quotes, and the problem is JCB can't handle double quotes in this area. It can only handle single quotes. That's one of the current limitations. So knowing that it can only handle single quotes makes it a little harder to do coding here, but we could in the future maybe look at a workaround. So for now I'm just going to take this out just to show you that it works. And when you code, you just keep in mind that you can't use double quotes, that one. You can't use that one. You can only use single quotes in this area at the moment. Okay, now it's going to ask me for a class here. So I'm just going to take that out as well, just for now, and save. Now let's just compile it again and install. Go back here, refresh, and there's home run, nothing, great stuff. So our little expansion on the note field has worked, and very much similar is how it will be for any of the others, except now obviously for this identified limitation. Okay, so let's summarize what we've done. If we want to add the class here, if we want to add more values than what we have here, now it's heading, title, description. If we want to add more of that here, we need to expand this custom field type. So we'll need to come here and with like here next to buttons, maybe you want to add another value that you want to have available. You'll have to do it here, and it will then be available for any custom field. And you'll obviously, if you select it and it's not related to either the radio, the checkbox, or the list, you need to just remove it out. Okay, so yeah, that's at the moment this area seems to still require a little bit more thinking. You can of course ignore the whole having to put it here to get the information here. Yeah, you could skip that and just say the description is going to be this and the title is going to be that, and you can hard code it in there. It's basically just Joomla taking XML values and translating it, and that's one of the reasons why your double quotes doesn't work here, is because we're saving this in a way that should be XML safe. But okay, that's a whole nother topic. Have fun. This is really how you expand the custom field area by adding new custom field types, or field options. Is that maybe to make a more differentiation between this? You could do that. Just a little heads up, if you do that and you've done a good job at doing that, you must consider sharing that changes with the rest of us, because of one issue which at the moment there isn't a workaround, and that is that if you update your JCB install, these new values that you've added here will actually be overwritten. It will be taken away and you'll need to add them in again. And if you decide to push these new, like maybe you're doing a form field node expand, and then you need to also include this new field, the file, the actual file that is in component builders, this area here. So this actual file, these two files would need to be part of your pull request. I am also going to, within the next week, I'm planning to sort of expand on this area. So if you really want to do something big, just give it another week or so, and then come and look at the code. Look at, in the future, if you watch this tutorial, come and look at what happened in this area, and then check these placeholders. You know, take them, go back to the area which I showed you in the C field, and check out this set custom field type file. Check what's happening here. These placeholders are available in your PHP. So that means the table value, the component value, all of those values are available in this PHP area. And those values are usually what you set up here. So it's sort of a little dynamic placeholders. So while we are loading the code, we are also at the very end here, we're taking the placeholders that we set up here, and we are updating all the placeholders in the code, and this code eventually then gets placed into the this get options PHP, like I explained before. Now you might come here and see, well, I've changed some of this, and what I'm going to do and what my aim is going to be is to make this area easily more scalable and more dynamic, so that you could be even more free to create custom fields that are unique to your application. Okay, well, thanks for watching. I hope this even expands your understanding of the custom field implementation even more.